I'm joined now by Appia's CEO, Jud Bowman. Jud, welcome to Bloomberg West.
Thanks for having me.
So explain to us how this works, how it can be one of the biggest app stores in the world, but it's actually a series of smaller app stores, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. People might not have heard of Appia, but we power 40 app stores for other carriers or handset makers around the world. Sometimes we joke that we're the app store for the emerging market. There's 5.3 billion people now with cell phones.
What's your revenue model? What's your relationship with developers and carriers?
What we've done is solve the problem for a carrier. The typical carrier's got 1,000 devices in their network. We give them an app store in a box, and our business model is revenue share.
So what's your biggest market?
Surprisingly, it's India, actually. I just came back from a week and a half in India. There's 830 million people with cell phones there.
Well, it's not that surprising, right? They have more than 1 billion people there. Here in the U.S., we're all obviously obsessed with this two-horse race, Android and Apple, but there's a very competitive global app landscape beyond that. Tell us what's happening beyond the realms of Apple and Android out there.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think a lot of the conversation focuses on Apple and Android market. But the surprising thing is that Apple's only shipped about 125 million iPhones. And when you think about it, there's 5 billion other mobile devices out there. And all the people that have those phones in their pocket, they want apps too.
And those people can't necessarily afford an iPhone, right?
I think that's exactly right. The economics definitely drives it. If you're in India, you're going to probably go with the cheapest phone.
So how is Appia positioning itself in the global mobile landscape?
I think our view, it's really about the developers. So 32,000 developers have come to Appia, and what we're doing for them is giving them distribution globally. Last month, March, we powered 22 million app downloads in over 200 countries. And so I think our view is by powering all these stores for carriers in markets like India or South Africa or the U.S., we're giving those developers distribution in addition to what they're getting through Apple's App Store or Android market.
And one of the interesting things I notice is that RIM, Research in Motion's venture capital arm, is actually an investor in Appia, as is Eric Schmidt's firm, Tomorrow Ventures. Why do you think they're interested in investing in Appia when they've got BlackBerry and Android?
I think it's really cool. We're building an open app store marketplace. Apple, Android, BlackBerry, these are the top platforms. And I think it's really exciting that Eric from Google invested, that BlackBerry invested. We actually announced another round of funding a couple weeks ago from Vinrock, which is one of the oldest firms in Silicon Valley. And a little known fact is they were actually the original investor in Apple as well. So we like to say we've got investment from sort of all three of the big platforms.
BlackBerry and Research in Motion has had a very hard time courting developers. Does investing in you help them with that in any way?
I think at the end of the day, RIM, BlackBerry, they want to foster the ecosystem. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect developers with distribution all over the world.
Now, you recently announced a performance-based ad campaign for apps. Explain to me how this works.
It's a little bit like Google with their AdWords system. So we had 22 million downloads last month. And I think if you're a developer, you're trying to get to the top of the App Store chart. What we're trying to do here is create a way that developers can come to Appia and bid for placement and pay for just the downloads they want to drive. So they're only paying for downloads of their apps.
But why does that make sense rather than having the most popular app rise to the top, which, conceivably the most popular app is the most well-liked app, potentially the best app, right?
I think that's right, but I think discoverability has become an incredible challenge. You might be in the dorm in college right now or at a startup company building a really great app. And the stark reality is there's 332,000 apps on Apple's App Store. There's 160 apps in our App Store. There's 200,000 apps on Android market. So standing out in the crowd is really challenging. I think any developer out there is trying to figure out what is their marketing strategy. And we're trying to provide a way that they can buy downloads, essentially.
All right. Thanks so much. Jud Bowman, founder and CEO of Appia, in town from Durham, North Carolina. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
On Bloomberg West.